She's behind me, isn't she? Welcome back to the Mr. McNugget Show. I hope you're well. And continuing on with this Halloween series, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my Halloween 3 collection. But if I'm being honest with you, there's not really much of a Halloween 3 collection, and that's because I, like so many others, have the same cliche story for why, as a younger person, I did not particularly like Halloween 3. It didn't have Michael Myers in it. Bet you've never heard that one before, but the reality is, I have to be honest if I'm going to tell you my stories with these movies, and my honest story at the time was, I just didn't want to watch this film because it didn't have the characters that I had already grown accustomed to in it. And I know a lot of other folks out there at the time felt the same way. Regardless, though, I think it's important to kind of circle the wagons, so to speak, and go back on my original thoughts and feelings and then kind of update them to how I feel about this movie now. I remember there was a night again, and it must have been a Halloween or around Halloween time, where they had shown Halloween, Halloween 2, and then Halloween 3. And the shows probably started at around 8:30 or 9 o'clock Eastern time. So by the time Halloween 3 came around, it was almost time for me to crash anyway. I just wasn't going to last much longer. And I wanted to, because at that time I didn't know what Halloween 3 had in store for me. So I got through the first maybe 15 or 20 minutes and realized something. I realized that this was not going to be the movie that I thought. This wasn't going to be the finale of my evening that I was hoping for. And as a kid, I hoped for much different things than I hope for as a movie watcher now. I really just wanted more of the same. I wanted more stalking of Michael Myers, hopefully maybe back in the neighborhoods again, some reason for why he was doing it that I could justify in my young pea brain, and I would have been just as happy as I could be about that. But instead, what we got was what you all know as Halloween 3. And I kind of railed on it from that point on. And I actually, as a child or young adult or whatever you want to call me at that time, 9, 10, 11 years old, I refused to watch it again. So I basically gave the movie 25 minutes, realized Michael Myers was not in it, turned it off, went to sleep, and from that point on, spoke poorly about it, never watched it, and never owned it. I did not have a single VHS copy of this movie. Not one. Which is crazy, because remember how I had a video store copy of 1 and 2? I could have gotten the copy of 3, and I didn't. So here I sit, VHS copyless of Halloween 3, as an adult who happens to really now, I really enjoy this movie. And I know that's a popular thing to say now too, that revisionist history of Halloween 3, but it's true as well. I am the cliche with this movie. It's fun. It's a fun movie. The premise is outrageous. It is very different, but it's still moody. It's still atmospheric. It has so much going for it as a movie. And I know that the same things have been said now, even with this revisionist history of hating Halloween 3 and then coming back around to really enjoy the movie, that it should have just been called Season of the Witch. But let's be frank here. I mean, we're all adults. If you didn't tag this with the Halloween name, this movie would not have sold. Now, granted, it did have a huge second week drop off because word of mouth got out that Michael Myers was not in this Halloween movie, but it did do well in its opening because it was Halloween 3. If this was just Season of the Witch, we would have long forgotten about it. And that, to me, would have been a crying shame now, because this movie would have faded into obscurity. You would have never heard about it. And if it wasn't tagged with this franchise, it just wouldn't be near and dear to us now. So at least now it has that opportunity, and that opportunity, at least to me, has been afforded to it by having the name Halloween in it. All right, I've blubbered enough about Halloween 3 and my basically going with the flow of everybody's opinion on it. At least I came to that opinion on my own, though. Got to give me that. Let's talk about this small little collection. So I have this Scream Factory DVD. this came out when the Blu-rays came out as well. I did not get the Blu-ray because I couldn't find the Blu-ray and I'm impatient. Looking back, I'm actually kind of happy I did that because this is strange, but I like the fact that this slipcover and this case is larger because it's DVD and not Blu-ray. So I have, a bigger piece of this, again, Nathan Thomas Milliner artwork here, which I really like because it has Cochrane kind of looming over them. I know some people said the dismembered hands and the head of Cochrane was kind of a strange thing, but I kind of like how, because he is kind of looming at large in the entire film anyway. I think it's a great symbolism for that. But I also like, too, how he managed to put the original trick-or-treaters against that orange sky in the background. I really think that's nice to incorporate that in there. And then on the back, some photos of Tom Atkins and Stacey Nelkin and the poor little boy getting his head eaten by all the nasty bugs inside his silver shamrock Halloween mask. It's just great. Now, the features on this are the audio commentaries are the mainstays here. You've got one with Tommy Lee Wallace. It's my favorite of the bunch, although I do love listening to Tom Atkins talk as well. But you have that Tommy Lee Wallace audio commentary, Tom Atkins in his own audio commentary, and then it has a standalone, The Making of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, featuring interviews with writer-director Tommy Lee Wallace and the actors Tom Atkins, Stacey Nelkin, Brad Schachter, stunt coordinator Dick Warlock, executive producer Irwin Yablans, director of photography Dean Cundy, co-composer Alan Howarth, and more. Now, listening to those names, it's pretty awesome because you have The Shape from Halloween 2 is back in this movie again, playing various roles. And you also have Dean Cundy in it. And you have to realize that whenever you see Dean Cundy's name attached to something, you can look back and go, that's why that movie's so good to look at. Dean Cundy. And this movie is gorgeous to look at. It is a fantastically well shot and produced movie. It is great from a lot of aspects, but that is one of its major strengths. And that, again, is Dean Cundy. So I have this, and of course, it being the Scream Factory Shout Factory edition, it has the original artwork on the inside. And this is a movie that also went through the good times where it got some really cruddy versions of its artwork too. I don't have any of those to show because I didn't collect this movie at all, but Scream Factory is very good for going back to the original, and here it is, the original artwork. And it has just a few different stills in there. Poor Dr. Chalice. He not only got kidnapped and hogtied, but he got hogtied with a silver shamrock mask on, waiting for his brain to be eaten on Halloween night. Oh, and by the way, that jingle just gets stuck in your head, and I find myself repeating it constantly throughout the year, not just on Halloween. That's a gift that keeps on giving, too. So that's the first copy that I got. Now, when these came out was like, what, the mid 2010s, or they call those the aughts? So that's the first copy of this movie I ever owned. Again, this is not a surprise, but the second copy is the one that came in the Blu-ray set from Scream Factory, the entire franchise set. This has all the same special features as the DVD here. There's nothing else about it. It even, it's one of the most bare bones releases in the entire set. The DVD actually only has one disc in it as well. And that's really it. That's Halloween 3 for me. What's funny, though, is I said I watch Halloween 2 the most, even though the first one is my favorite. This one probably gets the third most spins of the entire set. I have to see this movie every Halloween season because it is another movie that feels like Halloween to me now because I really appreciate what it was going for. So I appreciate this movie. I appreciate you. Thank you for sticking around with me. I talked about mental illness in the last, and I don't want to make light of mental illness, but I speak with my Blu-ray cases. So anyways, guys, thanks for hanging out with me and listening to me ramble about Halloween 3. I'll be back on the next episode talking about Halloween 4 when Michael Myers decided to come back to town and they didn't throw him a homecoming party. Until then, have a good one.